Hi. Every so often I have somebody who might contact me that's had issues with one of the products that I've sold them. On this occasion, a good customer of mine had an issue with her X Pro that she's had for a little while. She explained that this was the first time she'd dismantled the grinder to clean it, and she was having problems trying to get the adjustment dial to actually work again.
The weird thing here, my problem is when I put this in, okay, I can't seem to turn anywhere after that. Help! Am I doing it wrong? This is still like this. Hope you can help me, Paul.
But anyway, she did explain that she had dismantled it and then she'd put it back together. However, she missed out the obvious thing, the real culprit, and that was the adjustment dial itself. She'd somehow managed to, when she put it back on, to totally bend the pins on the adjustment dial. And as you can see from this conversation, she kind of left that part out until right at the end there, when I kind of realised what she was saying when she sent me this picture. So I asked her to obviously send the grinder back to me where I could have a look at it and try a repair on that. Okay, so after receiving the customer's grinder, I quickly unwrapped it and I noticed the obvious thing, and this is something that I've spoken to 1Zpresso about recently, and it's something, I'm not sure if you've got a problem with this, but it's the material for the hand grip on the 1Zpresso grinders. I've had several people talk to me about this, and it's just not adequate, this material. It's really bad, and this customer's had this grinder for about a year, just over a year, I suppose. I'm going to make another video about this. I don't want to go into too much detail about this right now. I'm going to make a video to show some other examples of this, and I'm going to also make a video where I take the material off and replace it. So if you've got a problem with this type of thing, I'll show you how to replace that and what the steps are to do that. Okay, let's take the adjustment dial off and have a look at this. Yeah, there you can see they're all totally bent. She's really forced that. You can see the damage. Also on the coating there, that's all damaged as well. They're meant to be really straight, these pins, to be able to fit into the adjustment mechanism and be able to turn, but you can see they're really bent. Okay, at this point, even though it's pretty obvious what the problem is, I still like to take the grinder apart and check it out and see if there's any other obvious damage or any other reason why this could have happened. I'll take like the burrs out, check out the burr shaft and see if there's any like scrapes or any damage to that. The bearing cap, I'll have a look at the bearing ring, see if there's any kind of score marks on that. Sometimes there will be problems with that, and you can really see where things have been rubbing inside, so that's worth checking out also. Right, the real issue in this case was the adjustment mechanism. That's the part that fits into the top of the grinder, and the pins actually fit into the grooves around the sides of this mechanism. So when you turn your adjustment dial to open and close your burrs, those pins fit into these grooves, and if it's jammed, in this case it was totally jammed. Now, I think over time this can be an issue where it tightens up. The same with things like the breakers. If you don't take those off pretty regular, they can get really tight over time and particles will get in there, and that will make it harder to get off. In this case, I think that's maybe what's happened, but I also think that she's totally over tightened it, and it just made it that much harder to be able to turn it again and loosen it. And then what's happened after that, she's kind of panicked a little bit and not really been sure what to do in that case. So she's put the adjustment dial back on and just really tried to turn it. She must have some strength, this customer. I mean, honestly, those pins are they're pretty solid. So to be able to physically turn that so they bend those pins in that way, I don't know how she's done that, to be honest. Even now, I don't know how. But anyway, I think that's what's happened. She's over-tightened it. She's panicked. She's put the adjustment dial back on, and then she's really gone to town on that, and it's really bent those pins. Just to show you that this adjustment mechanism does actually come out. So if you're cleaning your grinder, just be aware of that and be a little bit careful. I don't really advise that you take it out very often because you can actually damage the threads on that. It might get coffee particles in there over time, so maybe you do have to take it out at some point, but just be really careful when you do that. And when you put it back in, just kind of sit it on the threads and make sure it's level, and then slowly turn it so you know that it's going in properly. Don't cross the threads, otherwise it will get really stuck and you'll have an issue. So just be aware of that. Okay, at that point, I've used some pliers to actually tease those pins and make them straight again. I didn't really force them. I don't advise that you do that if you've got this problem. Just gently kind of move them and then hold them up, and you can check by lining up the pins with the ones behind them and make sure that they're level and they're pointing upwards and not kind of off at an angle or anything. So at this point, I've managed to kind of get it about 85–90% straight. They're still not 100%, but I don't want to force them too much. I really don't want to break them at this point because I don't have a replacement or anything like that. Right. At that point, those pins are looking pretty good. They're straight enough for me to think that they're going to work. So I place the adjustment dial back on the grinder and move it. And there you go. That's it. It's basically being able to move that adjustment mechanism because the pins are straight enough to now fit back into those grooves and be able to turn that properly. The pins are still, I would say, they're still not 100% straight, but I would say that they're nearly there anyway. That's just good enough for it to actually get in there and open that. So I'm really happy with that. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to take that adjustment mechanism out and have a look inside, see if there's any obvious damage or anything that would have prevented that from coming out, or whether or not it was just some coffee particles in there that was causing all the issues. Now that that's out, that adjustment mechanism, you can see it's pretty dirty in there. It's surprising, really, how really small coffee particles can get into a small space like that. But you can see there is quite a bit of, coffee residue in there, coffee particles. I thought it was damaged also. If you look there, you can kind of see, it looks like it's got some score marks or some kind of scraping. But after checking a little bit and kind of giving it a rub, it's not, it's just lubrication. So be aware of that. That 1Zpresso do actually put some lubrication into these parts. So I've cleaned up the grinder. I've cleaned the adjustment mechanism, especially around the threads there. I've cleaned inside the grinder also, again, around where those threads are there. So it's all nice and clean now. Right, like I mentioned earlier on, if you do have to take this part out and you put it back in, just make sure that it goes in like level. Just sit it in there and it'll find its own level, and then just turn it slowly and you won't have any problems with that, and it'll just screw right back in there. Once that's sitting in there nicely and you screw that in, turn it all the way until you feel some resistance, and then don't over tighten it because that'll bring you all the way back to the beginning. So yeah, don't over tighten it at that point, and just, you'll feel it. If you can move it comfortably with your fingers to open and close that at that point, that's good enough. This will tighten up over time, a little bit like the breakers, when you've been using your grinder for a while and you decide to go and open the breakers to clean your grinder and dismantle it and stuff, and you realise that it's really hard to get off. It's the same with this. Those threads will become tight. So I don't advise that you're heavy-handed at that point. Just gently move it into place and then stop. You'll see. At this point, it's just a matter of reassembling the grinder and making sure that all the parts are in there properly. Obviously, things like the bearing ring is the right way round, because that will help a lot to stop those coffee particles getting into those places that do cause the problems. So just put those in, put the parts back in properly. Again, not over tightening anything and making sure everything's in its correct place. Put your thumb nut back on, make sure obviously that's engaged and it's in properly. I'm going to give these just a little bit more, just push with the burrs from below and make sure the spring's okay, nothing feels out of place there. Right, yeah, those pins, they look really good now. I'm pretty happy with those. I think, over time, hopefully they will correct themselves 100%, but right now I'm really happy with that. So I'm going to put the adjustment dial back on. I'm going to tighten it now and just close the burrs completely and make sure nothing is stopping that from moving anymore. The adjustment dial's moving pretty much the way it's supposed to move. There's nothing kind of feeling like it's touching there or it's rubbing against anything. It's moving very fluidly, nothing wrong with that. The burrs from below are also moving up and down like they're supposed to. It's tightening. Yeah, the burrs are closed there. Everything seems pretty good, back the way it's supposed to be. That's good. I'm happy with that. The adjustment dial is also really level on top. You can kind of see it's sitting on there properly also. At that point, I think that's fixed. I'm really happy with that. It's nice to actually, if you have a problem like that, be able to fix it and figure it out, and it doesn't give you too many headaches. I'm going to get this out to the customer. It's nice and clean for her, so hopefully she'll be happy with that and she'll get many, many more good uses out of her grinder. If you like this content or it's useful for you, I really hope it is, please consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribing, and I'll maybe make some more videos showing how to fix these type of problems in the future. So yeah, thanks for watching and take care.